Hello everyone, I'm John Ray and I'm president of the Alpharetta Business Association, and I'm here with our May member of the month, Jim Barnes. Jim is with Barnes Risk Management Group. Did I get that right?
You got that correct. Yes.
Okay, and you are the owner of Barnes Risk Management Group.
My wife and I, yes.
Yeah, okay, terrific. Oh, she's the boss then.
She's the boss.
Okay, okay. No, tell us about Barnes Risk Management Group, what you do.
All right, well, as the name implies, we help clients with their risk, particularly businesses, but personally as well. And really what our job is, what I see as our job, is to help our clients protect themselves against risks to their assets. Meaning, if you're in business and you have a storefront, what do you do to protect yourself in case somebody trips and falls? What do you do to protect yourself in case somebody makes an allegation that you said something to them? What do you do against the loss of data, that sort of stuff. So what we do is we explore those questions. Are you aware of what your asset base looks like? In other words, how much money, stuff do you have at risk? And do you have any indication, any feeling as to what would happen if somebody made a claim against you? In my business, there's only 4 things you can do with risk. You can ignore it, which generally is not a good idea. You can avoid it, and sometimes that really is a good idea. You're doing something, if you just stop doing it, the risk goes away. Well, that's nice. You can self-insure it, and that sometimes will work, particularly if the risk downside is remote enough and the cost to you is small enough. You might just decide, I'm going to roll the die and just decide that if it ever happens, I'll pay for it out of my pocket. Or you can transfer the risk. And that's where I come in. We work to define what it is that keeps you up at night, what do we need to do to address it, and then we look at what you have in place. Maybe what you have in place is perfectly adequate, maybe it needs to be tweaked, maybe it needs to be replaced.
Right.
That's what I did.
Okay, so we're primarily talking about insurance, and it sounds like there are a lot of options there that you give people that maybe they might not have been aware of before.
That would be correct, yes.
Mm-hmm. So let's talk about businesses, because most of our ABA members are obviously small businesses. Maybe you can talk about some of the things that you see, the mistakes that people make when they're looking at their risk management, their insurance coverages.
Well, the mistake I find most prevalent, whether it's on the business side or on the personal side, is people underestimate 2 things. They underestimate the value of their assets. Okay, their assets include everything. Okay, and they underestimate worst case scenario. Now, nobody wants to think about driving a car off a cliff. Nobody wants to think about their house burning down, that sort of stuff. But you must prepare for the worst case scenario, because if the worst case happens, what do you do? And that's where the biggest mistake comes in, is when I said the 4 things they can do, they have a tendency to wish to avoid. They have a tendency to think, it's never going to happen to me, so I don't have to worry about it. Well, things do happen. And then another mistake businesses make, particularly partnerships, is they don't explore what would happen if their partner died and they would be in business with their partner's spouse. They may not like their partner's spouse. And so we need to address that. We need to talk about business continuation, key man, first to die, that sort of stuff. We need to make sure that they understand you're in business with Joe, not with Sally. Or you might like Sally, you might want to stay that way, but we need to discuss it at least.
So, and maybe it could be that business owners don't fully add up all their assets. I mean, to protect your assets, you've got to know what your assets are, right?
Correct.
So it could be that, and I'm asking this question, that maybe business owners don't fully count up all their assets?
Yes, and one of the ways I address that is I recently did it with a client. This happened in a personal situation. She owned a very large house and she owned it free and clear. And she had an umbrella policy, which everybody should have, by the way. But her umbrella policy was for $1 million. And I looked at her assets, just from a cursory look, and said, you might want to sit down with your financial advisor and have him or her tell you, what do you have? Because I'm here to tell you that you don't have enough. And so I said, here's your assignment. Go talk to your financial advisor, and then we'll get back together next week. Well, it turned out that the umbrella policy needed to be $3 million in order to cover the exposure if something bad happened. The difference in the cost between those two, by the way, was about $200. I mean, it's not catastrophically expensive, but it's catastrophically bad if you don't do something.
Oh,
right.
yeah, absolutely. So, and I'm glad you brought that up because I was gonna ask you about umbrella policies generally. I mean, those policies cover a whole lot of risk for not a lot of cost relative to
Absolutely.
what they could prevent you from down the road, right?
Absolutely, and there's a reason for that. It's just like what drives it on an automobile policy or a home policy or a business policy, the main driver of the cost of the policy is the deductible. The lower your deductible, the higher your premium is going to be. The same thing works with an umbrella policy. Your deductible is $500,000, $1 million, whatever the underlying policy is. So they don't have to come in until you get $1 above that. That's why they're not terribly expensive, because most losses will never break the threshold. But if it does, then you've got a real problem.
Right. So, you're an independent agent.
I am.
Okay, so talk about the value of being an independent agent and the value to your clients of being an independent agent.
Well, the two types of agents are independents and captive, and I have actually been both. A captive agent works for a specific company, and they sell that specific company's portfolio of products. Whether they're good or bad doesn't really matter, that's what they sell. And most companies are good, don't get me wrong, most companies are good. But as an independent, you have the opportunity to shop the business and determine who may have better coverage, who may have better price points, who may have better service, who may have better claims experience. On the commercial side, it's much more important, because on the commercial side, businesses don't fall into pigeonholes necessarily. And you may have something that's specific to your business, even though your business is like Joe's business down the street, you may do something different. And the coverage that you two share may not cover the thing you do different. And so that's where it comes important to have somebody who actually knows what they're talking about, and I like to think I do, and knows that there are options available, and let's go out and find them.
So one final question. You know, I think maybe what a lot of people don't realize is that insurance companies, they may be big, but sometimes they have specialties.
Oh,
They
absolutely.
know some businesses better than others, and they also, sometimes they go through cycles and where they don't want to write certain businesses and business categories maybe, and you provide insight into who's really
Yes.
aggressive in wanting business and who's not.
Absolutely, yes, and there is a big difference,
Yes.
particularly on the commercial side of the ledger.
All good reasons to be in touch with Jim Barnes, who again is our May Member of the Month for the Alpharetta Business Association. I'll get that out. And but Jim, for those that want more information, tell them how to be in touch.
Best way to get a hold of me is my cell phone. I have it with me virtually all the time. It's 404-723-6880. That's the best way to get me.
Great. Jim, thanks for being with us.
Thank you, John. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.